Record. Welcome everyone to our Empowered Women's Coaching Calls. It is Tuesday the 4th of June if you're watching this back. Today is such an awesome call because I have literally one of my most favorite people in the world on to join me, and they do say that you are the average of, the 5 people that you spend the most time with. So if I'm the average of you, Jess, then I'm doing pretty well in life. So the reason why I actually have Jess on to chat with us today is because I really, we've had a lot of chatter around setting yourself up for success, to really empower yourself into the best state possible, to take control, take charge of your life and how you feel every day and how you show up every day. And a lot of my success is definitely can be attributed to the different rituals that I've set for my life. And, sometimes those rituals are evolving and changing and, depending on what's going on in my life at the time. But when it comes to the power of morning rituals and consistency, I literally cannot think of anyone in my life, whether it be a coach or a friend, who is more consistent and walks her talk more than Jess. So I would definitely consider her an expert and a great role model in this field. So before we get started, as always, you guys can head to the description if you want to join the Empowered Women's group, where you can connect with other women, watch past recordings, share your experiences, and also the YouTube channel is there. And please, take some screenshots, tag, share on social media. If you get value out of this, let's help empower as many women as possible, and make sure that you tag Jess as well. And you go and check out her stuff because she has a lot of amazing content around all of this stuff as well. So we are talking today about empowering yourself with morning rituals and really setting the tone of your day first thing in the morning when your consciousness is the most expanded, because, how you start your day will determine the energy and success of your entire day. And I think as women, particularly the mothers who are on here right now, the mornings can be the most challenging, the time where it can most, we can most feel derailed and outside of our control if you've got little ones to get ready for school and so many different balls that we're juggling. So we really do need to bring consciousness and mindfulness to this time of the day, because it is the most important time of the day when it comes to setting your mindset. And I think that when we bring mindfulness and we take control and we set ourselves up for success, we really can transform not just the day, but our entire life with that. So morning routines are certainly the most common trait when it comes to successful people. When I'm talking about success, I always mean success in all areas of life. I'm not talking about, being rich. I'm talking about having happy, healthy relationships, being a connected, soulful parent, experiencing joy in life and being successful at whatever your purpose and your passion is and your mission. So just want to run through some benefits, and then I'm going to get out of the way and I'm going to ask Jess some questions around her morning rituals. But, setting your day up for success, you're going to feel so much more inspired. And this is probably one of my favorite things that comes when I'm consistent with my morning routines. I love the quote that you're not tired, you're just uninspired. You're not tired from doing too much, you're tired from doing too little. And it's so true. And there's moments in my life, many moments, more so than not now, where I just feel like I'm running on adrenaline every day and I can squeeze the juice out of every single day because I'm just so excited for what's happening in my life. And that's because I make my life that way, and I remind myself of who I want to be every single morning. I'm inspired for the day, and every day turns out better when I set myself up in that way. You have a more positive outlook on life if you start with a positive mindset. You're more aligned with your purpose. You are more inspired to get shit done, right? There's nothing worse than, there's that saying that if you want something done, give it to someone who's busy, who's setting themselves up for success, who's on the go. If you're uninspired, you're unmotivated, then you're probably being unproductive as well. So really just setting yourself up, just simply by making the bed first thing in the morning is such a small thing to do, but it sets the tone of your day of getting stuff done and being productive. it makes you more intuitive as well. Like, this is where, as I said, it's the moment when you have the most consciousness to really choose how you're going to feel and show up for the day. And that's connected to your intuition, and yeah, more progress towards your potential. And when you're moving towards your potential, this is how we experience joy. If you don't feel that you're living a joy-filled life, it's because you're feeling stagnant, or even worse, you're moving backwards. Moving forward is the feeling of joy. So I want to start, Jess, by asking you, and you might want to share a little bit about yourself first, and then I would love for you to share the importance of your morning routines and how it's transformed your life.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm honoured to be here and speaking to all these gorgeous women. I suppose I'll start just by letting you guys know a little bit about me in case you don't know me. In terms of, I suppose, how and why this routine became something really, really important for me in the last couple of years in particular. So I am a wife and a mum to a 7-year-old and a nearly 2-year-old. And so, and I also, both my husband and myself, both run businesses. So just, you know, the level of busyness within our household some days can just be out of control. It's one thing to have to get up and go to a job. It's another thing to have the discipline to get up and just walk downstairs and sit in your office. And so throughout the many years of running businesses, there were definitely times when I felt that discipline slipping, and I was like, oh, I just like float around the house and pretend to work, and things just weren't really happening the way that I wanted them to at times. And in the last probably 3 to 4 years, I've really, really delved into just putting so much focus onto myself rather than looking for something outward to kind of make me happy or wishing things were different, but not really taking charge. And so that was something that started a few years ago and has just absolutely changed my life. And when I mean like focusing on myself, it was really empowering myself. It was getting to know who I was. It was honoring my truths and really just making that decision that I'm the only person in control of the outcomes of the day, the week, the month, the year, and the whole future, rather than something that I used to be, which was a bit of a excuse-driven poor me mentality. And I'm sure that anyone can relate to that when you go, well, it's because of the kids that I can't do it, or it's because we don't have enough money, or it's because of that or this. And so we've all been there. We might be there right now. But for me, this slow journey, you know, to really finding myself, the routine is something that came in and just, it's really hard to explain, but it really just transformed so many areas of my life. So when I fell pregnant with my second baby, Leo, he was planned, but there was definitely this kind of, do we have another baby? Don't we have another baby? And for any mums out there, it can be a challenge, you know. I used to say Scarlett moved into our life, but really she took over our life in so many ways. And you know, first time around, I remember that feeling of just waking up when she woke up. It was just like, you know what, I'm just going to get as much sleep as possible and she will be my alarm clock. And so that was fine back then. I don't know if it really served me, but that's just what I did when I had Scarlett. When I had Leo, because our lives had become so much busier and our businesses were so much more demanding, and we really had a lot more going on, I found it really, really hard at the beginning, because I felt like as much as I was totally in love with this little baby, I found that he was at sometimes becoming my excuse for not succeeding the way I wanted to. And I was lucky. I mean, he did sleep pretty well, but there was obviously, you know, as any newborn, you know, they demand you because they absolutely need you. And so when you're getting woken up a few times at night and all those different things, it can be really hard as a parent to want to show up for yourself, because it's so easy to get into this mentality of, well, they need me, and so my needs just keep going down the line. Thankfully for me, because I was already on a path, I already felt very worthy, I was able to really shift and just decide to really show up for myself at that time. And so I did a few different seminars just around the time or just recently after Leo had been born. And one of the things that, and Kira and I both have this as a mission statement, and we had created these beautiful mission statements that were helping to kind of drive us towards our purpose. And it came to the end, and I remember saying, well, when do we, like, if you've got a baby and they're 6 months old, like, when are you going to read this thing? Because, like, first thing in the morning doesn't really work for me. And at that time, I'd stopped going to the gym, I'd stopped all that stuff because Leo was my priority. And my coach said, we're just going to have to get up earlier. I think that's probably the only option, because the truth is that morning time can be such it's just, to me, it's a real spiritual time in the day when you wake up and you haven't quite got into that full consciousness yet. You're kind of lulling out of sleep. And if you do it the right way, it can be a groundbreaking hour or two in the morning. And so I got told, you're probably going to have to wake up earlier. And I thought, all right, well, there's a possibility Leo can wake between 5 and 6 at that time. And so I thought, all right, it's going to have to be about 4:30 just to get the mission statement read, not to mention all the other things. But fast forward now, I suppose, well, how long have I been doing it? I can't really remember, but at least six or so months where I've had this real commitment to myself to just be up. I do now wake up at 4:30 probably 90% of the time, unless there's a really tough night with Leo or something like that. But it did shock me at first. And I definitely think a lot of my friends were like, Jess, you're just trying to one up everybody. Like, why not just make it 5 a.m.? Like 4:30 is a bit crazy, but it was what I felt I had to do.
And the priorities start to shift too. Like I find, at the times, I don't get up that early. So we're going to talk about how it may differ for everyone, what that schedule looks like. But I don't have any babies anymore either. So we're in different phases of our lives. But certainly if that's where you're at and that's what needs to happen, I find even for myself, if I'm getting up that early, I'm going to bed earlier and actually wanting to get to bed earlier because, your body clock readjusts where you're ready for bed earlier and you actually naturally get up that early because you're getting the same amount of sleep.
Yeah, definitely. And it wasn't something where I was kind of burning the candle at both ends. I had decided, and Kira's the same, we're very similar. That's why we're such great friends, but I don't watch TV at night. I had made conscious decisions around, which I actually have notes here about. It's not only about taking charge in the morning, it's about setting the tone in advance. So I'll run you through what I do in a typical morning. But if you are intending on also getting exercise in and things like that, then it is important that you are getting a good night's sleep. And so looking at your screens, like right before you go to bed, looking at your phone or watching a TV or replying to emails or doing things like that just don't serve you in order to kind of give you the best chance and opportunity to have a really good sleep. So you do have to, when you're kind of starting with, if you like the idea of a morning routine, you really have to make a conscious decision to show up for yourself in every sense. And that has to start with the night before. It has to start with putting the gym clothes out. I spoke about this on one of my podcasts and I said, sometimes if you've got a job to go to, you've got to ask yourself, like, do I have time to let the kettle boil in the morning? Am I going to stand there and let that kettle boil for 5 minutes if I'm telling myself I don't have time to meditate for 10 minutes or whatever it may be? So I'm always looking at ways I can save time in the morning if I'm time poor. So did you want me to run through kind of what?
Yeah, absolutely. That was my next question is, we're just going to share some ideas with you. We're not saying that your routine will be specifically the same as ours. And Jess and I, as I said, ours differ a little. So, I'll get you to share specifically what yours looks like and how you set yourself up for success.
Yeah, cool. So there's a couple of things that I do as non-negotiables. One thing that I do when I go to sleep the night before is I set my intentions. So I always say to myself, Things like I have no problems in waking up early. I value myself. I'm worthy enough to give myself this gift. I definitely don't see it as a hard thing. And one of the things I picked up early on when I started this was that I don't negotiate with myself. So if I've made a decision, I ask myself, what do I lose by negotiating? And I always picture like someone walking backwards, like backtracking out of a situation.
Success is a decision, ladies. That's all it is. When you don't give yourself a way out, like, I'm choosing to eat healthy today. You've made the, even actually, I remember Scott Harris gave me this tip, or maybe it was at one of his events. And he's like, when you go out for dinner, if you've already chosen before the decision, I'm going to eat healthy tonight, then there's no negotiating once the menu's in front of you. The decision is made. And so you're not swayed easily. So, yeah, and obviously you can apply it to every area of your life.
Yeah, so I would say things to myself like, I don't negotiate with myself anymore. I lose too much when I negotiate with myself. I value my health and well-being. So I was already setting myself up for success the night before. Now it becomes really easy. When I wake up, I've actually got a really beautiful song that plays on my alarm. I haven't actually shared that before. And then I thought, what can I add here that I might not have told someone before? But you can, if you've got an iPhone, you can actually pick a song now instead of a noise. Or if you've obviously got a really nice alarm clock, that's even better. But I have my phone away from my bed at the other end of the room, and this lovely song comes on. And so I have to get out of bed to turn it off so I don't wake everyone else up. Mm-hmm. But what I do is I always start my day by just drinking water with, a bit of lemon, like warm water with a little bit of lemon in there. In terms of kind of health rituals and things like that, I love drinking bulletproof coffee, so I do that as well. But I suppose the more important things is that I make sure I don't look at my phone in the morning. So another thing that I picked up on a podcast from Brendan Bouchard was, when you open your phone in the morning, you're becoming a reactive human being. You're basically saying to the universe, I'm not in control. I'm letting something else control me. And that might be stressful. So if you're having struggles with finances, or if you find getting emails a stressful thing, and you let that phone control you, or if you play the comparison game with people on social media and first thing you do is open it all up, you've lost control already. So I'm really conscious to leave my phone, and I just walk downstairs. I have my drink, and then I normally make my bulletproof coffee, and then I read my mission statement. The mission statement's quite in depth, and it's something that looks different for different people. But if you don't have a mission statement, it could just be like, I call it, like, you can have a mini mission statement. You can have a set of intentions. You can have, if you're starting off on your personal development journey, it can be I am statements. It can be like what Kira would call like a manifesto. Just anything that's empowering and positive, that reinforces the person you want to be, the places that you're moving forward to, how you feel you want to show up, what's important to you. And mine starts with, my primary purpose is being loving and present. And I just, like, it's drilled into my brain now. And so for me to read that every morning, like, it actually makes me feel teary, but I feel that I've never been more present and loving because I've just drilled it into my brain. So the first thing I do every day is read that to myself.
You reset yourself. And I think, I know we were chatting about this the other day, and even for myself, in the co-parenting situation that I'm now in, even, is a great example of, we all have challenges. Even in relationships, we have challenges from day to day. And when you can realign and reset your intention for how you want to show up, and that you always want to come from love, and maybe you didn't nail it the day before, but when you wake up with that intention, who you show up as for most importantly for yourself, but for your children and for your significant other and your extended family and friends, it's just so incredibly powerful to remind yourself of that every day.
Yeah, definitely. And then what I do after that is I start a meditation, and that normally goes for, I think it's about 18 minutes. There's tons and tons of different ones that you can find on YouTube or on the internet in general. But for me, I've been doing ones from Joe Dispenza. I find they're really good for how you want to show up, and it's a pretty simple form of meditation. I didn't used to like meditating. I found like I would get really fidgety. I could never switch my mind off. And I think a lot of the time it was because I would try and do it at a yoga class at the end of the day. And I found that opening my mind up to being spiritual and meditating was much better for me in the morning. I'm still in my pajamas at this point normally. So it's all very dark and it's quiet and there's no babies crying. And so the more and more I do it, the more I love it. And so with time, I've set up like nice little area for myself to do those things in as well. And then after that normally takes me about 20 to 30 minutes. And then after that, I often go and exercise. So in summer, I love doing like early morning walks, but now that it's getting colder and darker, it is a bit more challenging because I can't really get that all done. I try to have my whole routine finished by 6 a.m. So it's a bit of a challenge. But I'll go to the gym, or if it's too dark, it's too cold, it's raining, and I don't want to go to the gym, then I will just do some yoga or something, like do some stretching here. Or I start doing productive things that really help me to become more of a present parent, like packing the lunch early, unpacking the dishwasher, because I used to find that all of those things were why I would get stressed out at the kids or at my hubby. Oh, we're in a rush, everything's a flap, and I always look presentable by the time the children are awake, which I know as a new mum, that's one thing I used to think, my God, like I'm losing the plot. Like, you know, you look in the mirror and you just think, what has become of me? Like everything's frazzled.
And it's a self-worth thing. It makes you feel good. Once again, it sets the tone for the day that you're worthy of that time to feel good about yourself, to brush your hair and get yourself in a nice state that you feel good about.
Yeah, and I know that all of those little things, they just meant that as soon as I got to school drop-off, I just felt light and everything was just in order. And I speak to a lot of women and I'm like, so what do you do in the morning? And you know, they're not eating breakfast and they're not doing things that, you know, some of them just feel like they're so lost. And so that notion of me waking up at 4:30, and like we said, you don't need to wake up that early because your girls are older and, you know, you have a different setup in the morning. But the thing is that the gifts it gives me far outweigh the cold mornings at 4:30. It's become something that is such a gift. I couldn't even imagine now. It's not like I have to, I should. It's like, I'm going to lose so much if I don't. That's how I genuinely feel. And it wasn't like that at the beginning. I must say I definitely had ups and downs. So if you're listening going, wow, that's a lot, Jess, just know that taking charge can start with one decision.
Yeah, I kind of want to share like how it started for me like years ago, just to like, you know, because obviously, you know, Jess and I were both running, you know, large businesses and that's not everyone's life. Some people's season is they're really just happy being stay-at-home mamas, or they love their job and, you know, perhaps they have more time, less time, whatever that looks like. But I really started to recognize the power of rituals on a much more simple basis. But when I first became a mum, and you know, at the time, Adam was working 70 hours a week. We didn't have the financial abilities to have nannies or anything like that. So it was just me, like most moms. And I realized early on that I needed a good hour minimum to myself every day for me to show up resourceful and loving and at my best. And so I created a ritual, not knowing everything I know now, but where I joined the gym with a creche, and every single day I had her booked into the creche, and it was a time that I knew I would have to myself. And to me, exercise is a form of meditation. It's a moving meditation. It's where I have mindfulness in my day. It's where I, you know, create, you know, good hormones, happy hormones in my body from movement. And it just made me feel better about myself, which made me show up better as a mum. So it can start with really small things like that. And, you know, getting out your diary every week and putting those big rocks in first. And we talk about this all the time in our business, is that you have to know what you value and what your priorities are, and making sure they go in as your big rocks into your diary first, because life will take over if you don't set yourself up for success. And you shouldn't have to ask permission. You should know your worth from the beginning when you set yourself up in this way, to take time for yourself, or to create a space in your home that's just for you, especially for these things that we're talking about. So I want to just, before we go on, Jess, I'll share a little bit about some of the things that I do, and then some other tips that I kind of wrote down. And I would love for you guys to really think about, even if you walked away with one thing, because you really want to start small so that you can win and really just create that momentum over time. If you set yourself up that way, then you're not going to feel overwhelmed. Like all of a sudden you've got this morning ritual that takes an hour and it's 10 different things, and 2 days in you already want to quit, right? You want to feel the joy and the success and the energy and the inspiration from it straight away. So some of the things that I've got here, and these all kind of work into setting my tone of the day. But first of all, like I said, make your bed first thing in the morning when you get up. If you're the last one to get up, you might have to come back to it if there's still people in bed. But just setting that standard for yourself sets the standard of the day. It brings organization into your life. It makes your space feel fresh and clutter-free, which to me is something that helps me be in my feminine flow when there's no clutter around. And just, as I said, setting that bare minimum standard of organization for your day. It's reinforcing that the little things really matter. One of the things we did this morning, we do this most mornings, teaching your kids that they can set the tone of the day as well. So we usually start the day with a dance party in our pajamas. We put the music on, happy music, and we dance around while we're making breakfast. Now, on that note, Jess, you were saying, you were talking about, that you're ready in time before the kids get up and you're feeling good. It's funny because I seem to attract a lot of friends into my life who run late all the time, and I'm the opposite. I'm very punctual. So I don't relate, because my entire life I get out of bed, with half an hour more than I need, because I value relaxation. I value sitting down with a tea and chilling out, or having a dance party with my kids, because we're totally on time, and I enjoy that kind of life rather than stressed out, running around, screaming at the kids, where's your shoes, where's your lunch? If that's how every morning starts for you, you just have to take responsibility and make some adjustments and set yourself up for success, because your state is influencing the state of your kids, and the tone is being set for their day too. So how can you bring fun and joy and relaxation and organization into your morning for the family? Creating energy through the day through exercise. So this is where my schedule will change, and I know Jess's has now coming into winter as well. In the summer, I'm up at 5 a.m. out on the beach, and that's the first thing I do. Then I come back and I have my lemon water and my bulletproof coffee, and then I sit down with my mission statement. And, sometimes I'll do a meditation with that. Sometimes I'll read a book or listen to a podcast. So there's always kind of tweaks to it, but always exercise. Something for my health, so my lemon water. I love my bulletproof coffee, and always my mission statement. They're the main priorities for me in the morning. Now that it's coming into winter, it's too dark, so I've put my walk at the end of the day, which is a really nice way to wind down as well. And I have my podcasts that I listen to. So I do my mission statement, get the kids off to school, and then I'm off to the gym where I'm doing that exercise. So you can find time for exercise. Remember, you get your must in life, you don't get your should. So remember, coming back to success is a decision. If, fit and healthy people, exercise is just a must. We're not negotiating with ourselves every day. We know that even on the days we don't feel like it, that's the day it counts the most, and we feel so much better for it, and we can all empower ourselves in that way. Getting up on your first alarm. This is, once again, setting a standard for your life, and how you do anything is how you do everything. Once again, my entire life, my alarm goes off, I just get up. I'm not negotiating with myself and hitting snooze 10 times, because you feel worse and worse, and it's harder and harder to get up every single time. And that will play out into your entire day. So quit the excuses and just make a decision today that you're someone that just gets up as soon as the alarm goes off. Have your, water ready to have a big drink. Brush your teeth straight away. That will wake you up. I even, in the winter, have like my prana mat next to my bed, and I can just kind of stamp on that a few times just to get my circulation going and getting awake. So whatever you need to set yourself up for energy when you wake up. Making a healthy decision in the morning, starting your day, if you're someone who, loves your breakfast, have a smoothie, make that decision. I'm going to be healthy today. I'm going to set the tone of health today. What are you going to do for your health every morning? Mindfulness activities, I'm just going to list a few examples. Obviously, we have our mission statements, and this is something I've done training on, and I know I'm sure Jess has as well, so you guys can go and watch that. We both have it next to us, got it on my phone, got it everywhere, and this is continually updated. I'm going into one of the busiest weeks of my business every year, and I've updated it with who I want to show up as a leader and what my responsibilities are, and I'm constantly tweaking and working in, if challenges arise, how I want to be, in the face of those, and the life that I want to create. So powerful. If there's one thing you guys take out of this, would you agree, Jess, like that doing this and having that as your morning ritual?
Yeah, 100%. I think, and I actually did do a podcast on this, so people can go listen to that one. But and I know you've done training on it as well. But having this, like, it's just such a simple thing. And I think the thing is that when you're looking at, like, there's so many things, and people can get overwhelmed. It's like, trust me when I tell you, I was not always like this. It was something that I've just slowly built on. And so I know that someone had written something there about it's not as easy because, you're always waking up tired. And it is true that a lot of the time, especially when we've got young kids, we are physically tired, but this moves you out of your tiredness, because what you said,
inspiration is energy.
Yeah. And when you do feel inspired, one thing that really struck, I had two things I wanted to say, when I was listening to you, Kira, but one thing is, children don't do what you say, they do what you do. And if you're showing them that you're putting yourself first, if you're like, Scarlett knows that by the time she wakes up, I've probably done all these things. And she's like, oh, you're not in your gym gear now. Didn't you go to the gym today? Or did you go to the gym early today? Like, and she knows that I do these things, and she knows where I'll be in the house if she wakes up early. It's so easy to get caught up in just, I'm getting through the day versus I'm in charge of the day. And when you have that mentality, trust me, the gifts that you can unfold having that process is just incredible. And one thing I just thought I'd touch on is with the exercise. So I know for some people, they just don't like exercise. It's a hard thing, or there might be a real big blockage around it. Like, I used to think, it doesn't matter how much I train, I'm not getting the results, so I just want to quit, or I don't have time, or whatever. There could be a really big limiting belief around why you don't want to exercise. I wasn't brought up in a family where exercise was a high priority as a weekly, daily thing. So it wasn't something I was that used to. And I thought I was uncoordinated. I had all sorts of stories. But what I do is I always ask myself, what kind of exercise is going to be best for me this week? And am I nurturing? And what are the goals? So sometimes exercise, like this morning, was, I feel freezing. I want to go and look at the beach because I love it. It's just something that fills my cup. But I was not moving very quickly. So I really set my intention around exercise being combined with a podcast, and just almost like a meditative kind of walking gratitude practice wrapped into one. Whereas other days I'm on fire with things and I need to go, push some weights and do leg press and feel strong. Other times there's just slow yoga things that I do at home, and I'm not great at yoga. I just do it because I know it's good for me. But I think that, the whole idea of it can definitely feel a bit overwhelming. So you've just got to go, all right, well, what's one small step? And
I think walking is like, it's human nature is for us to move our body. And walking is obviously the most simple form. And I think it's something that, given the chance and the right environment, everybody enjoys. It's innately built into us to do that. Get out in nature, which once again, as a human being, like, we're so connected to nature. When you get out in nature, you go for a beautiful walk, you take some deep breaths, you listen to a podcast or some music that really just feeds your soul, and you will feel better. Even if going into it, you're not feeling particularly energized. For me as well, that's just my default. If not, the gym isn't for everyone. And it's such an important point, Jess, that you brought up, because when you value and love yourself, you will want to make better choices for yourself. And, when it comes to health, you have to move your body. There's just no ifs or buts about it. We're not saying that everyone should go and lift weights and join a gym, because I understand for some people that's just torture. And I think life's too short to be torturing yourself every day. Find a movement that you enjoy. If it's dancing, if it's yoga, if it's riding your bike, if it's running on the beach, there are a million ways to move your body. But there's no excuse to not do it in some way, shape or form every single day, even if you're having to push a pram, or if your kids are literally climbing on top of you and you're having some fun doing some yoga and stretching together at home.
Yeah. And I think that understanding who you are is really important. And that's why both you and I have had a really good, really profound experience in creating our mission statements, is because it helps keep us on track, and it helps reinforce that we have a bigger vision. We're going, we're going to bigger and better places. It reinforces who we are, why we value ourselves. It has, it's listed out our strengths in there, what we're good at. So we're constantly reminding ourselves. And, the reason that people don't show up is because they just somehow trick themselves into believing they're not worth it. And they go, you know what, today's not my day. I'll just sleep in, because it doesn't really matter. But the thing is you're telling yourself you don't matter. It doesn't matter. The exercise doesn't matter. I can drink the smoothie later. I can read the thing later. Whatever story, in my mind, it really comes back to you saying, I don't matter. And when you get out of your own way and you go, I actually do effing matter, and I want to honor myself. It's giving me all these gifts.
And not only that, if you're going to sit and say that your kids are the most important thing in the world to you, then you taking care of yourself makes you 100 times the better mother, the better partner, the better in every area of your life. So you can't afford not to put yourself first. The original meaning of selfish actually has a positive meaning to it. We've made it into a negative. I'm proud to say that I'm selfish at times. I put myself first. I prioritize my time. And you know what? I'm proud of the mother that I am because of that, and how I show up in my business because of that, because I put myself first. I love myself because of that. I display and feel my self-worth because of that. And I show up everywhere in my life better because of it.
Yeah, 100%. And
so I just want to do with the mindfulness, I'll just finish on a couple of other ideas, because I want to show you guys how, you might start with a 1-minute thing tomorrow that sets you up for success. So just to, hopefully you guys are taking notes on this, but as we said, the mission statement is a great way to set the tone of your day when it comes to your mindset. As Jess said, embracing all of the things, we tell ourselves every day, we just have a big rant about how awesome we are, basically, and what our gifts are. And, I think, with women, we're so busy in comparison that we don't realize we're actually not meant to be good at everything. We're meant to have our own unique gifts that actually work in combination with other people's gifts. Jess and I, we're so alike that even our birthdays are on the same day, which is really fun when you get to party together. But we have so many differences as well. And, it doesn't do me any good to compare myself to Jess and put myself down and think that I'm not worthy because I'm not the same as Jess. The beauty and the magic is in our differences, not in our sameness. Just embracing all of the great qualities about yourself. And I've gone into that on other trainings, but, doing a gratitude practice, transformational. This one thing transformed my life. When you start your day with gratitude, it will transform your entire life. I actually really love to end my day with gratitude, but either or. When you frame your mind, when you change the energy and vibration of how you feel about life, that your cup is half full rather than half empty kind of person. You know, I changed that negative spiraling for myself about 5 years ago, and it is just a beautiful space to live in, a space of gratitude. You know, reading a book, an empowering book. What else? Heart opening stretches. You know, even if you don't have time to exercise, if you wake up and, you know, lay over a roller or a rolled up towel or something to open your heart space. I'm actually going to get a professional to come on and talk about the energetic link to when your body is open and flexible, how that actually impacts you spiritually and mentally, emotionally, physically as well. So, you know, that's something that I do every day. I start and end my day with that, and I get my girls to do it as well. And you will be amazed at how much more connected you even are to your partner when you feel that your heart is open. You know, on a physical level, it'll be much more open and receptive on an emotional level as well. You know, even the high value, if you're not sure where to start with the mission statement and you want something really easy to start with tomorrow, you can go into the Empowered Women's group, and we have our daily mantra. You know, how does this make you feel? I am an empowered, high value woman, strong yet graceful, standing in my greatness, yet humble, connected, and kind. I lead with calm courage. I am self-aware and sure. I know the truth of who I am. I embrace my imperfections, and I am flexible, fun, and free to be me. The most magnificent I will ever be is myself. You know, when I've been through a lot of coaching over the last 12 months and a lot of I am statements and things to get me through some great challenges, and I refined, you know, the most powerful words and things that have helped shape me into the happiest, most joyful person, flexible, free, loving, spiritual, you know, goddess that I could possibly be. And that's what I came up with. It's very empowering for me. So I want to share that with you guys. And that's as simple as it could be to start with, that you meditate on that in the morning. So even if you set, you know, let's just say after this call, you set yourself with 5 things that you're going to do in the morning, and you just make it through 3, you're already winning. This is not a thing where you're like, oh my gosh, I, you know, have to do an hour of what Jess does, and then you make it through 5 minutes, or you don't make it through the alarm, and then you're beating yourself up. You know, that's not what this is about. It's about creating new habits over time, even if it's just 10 minutes to start with, creating that space for yourself and building on that in a way that is that you can maintain, you know, joyfully and get to a place. And it may be challenging at first. As Jess said, you know, it was challenging at first for her to get up at 4:30 in the morning, but the gifts very quickly outweighed the challenge. So giving it some time and space for that as well. But if you win in the morning, you win the day. I love what you said before, Jess. Someone wrote it down as well, taking charge of your day. If you take charge in the morning, you are taking charge of your day. So I want you to maybe share some tips around setting yourself up for success, Jess, if you've got some extra tips that you feel like would be helpful.
Yeah. One thing I thought as you were speaking then, I thought, it's really important to let you know where I started. So when Leo was really young, that was which is nearly 2 years ago now, but that was when I really started to just make that shift of I'm doing it every so often to I'm doing it every day. And one of the things that I used to believe was that I wasn't good at reading, and I never had time to read because I was too slow at reading, because that's something that, you know, I decided to stick with my whole life. So at the beginning, all it was wake up, just get my cup of tea or my bulletproof coffee drunk in peace, because how much nicer is it to drink the coffee on your own versus a baby on the hip, the you know, all the other stuff. So that was number one. That's how it started. Just drink the coffee in peace. Then it was read.
Can I just add in there before you go on to your next one as well? If your kids are like my kids' age, like I would say from prep, right? From prep, your children have the ability to make them their own breakfast if you set them up for success, and have, you know, things that are safe in safe places. You know, my kids from that age, they don't need me all the time in the morning to be watching them. I go downstairs, make sure they're good to go, and I go up and I have my time to drink my coffee in peace on my own, and then I come down and I'm present with them and I do something with them.
Yeah, well, one thing I do when Scarlett wakes up a little bit, she's 7, nearly 8, a little bit too early for my liking, is I say to her, what kind of relaxing song would you like to listen to? Or do you want to get out your I am cards or our connection cards or whatever it may be? And I let her just start to learn her own little spiritual practice, because I think that, again, it's what I'm doing. So I'm just giving her a more simple way to do that. And I'm letting her be in charge of that on her own in the morning. It's pretty rare now, I'm very lucky, but if you have an early rising child, you can definitely do that. But so it just started with just drink my tea or coffee in peace. Then it went to reading 10 pages of a book each morning. And so it took me a bloody long time to read a book, but I was better than I was the day before. And then I added to it the exercise and gratitude practice, and those things that you mentioned are super, super easy. So if I was to suggest anything, I would say, look at where you feel you're having struggles. Or it might just be, I just want to have my shower, my hair blow dried, so that when the kids wake up, I just feel like I've got my shit together. Mm-hmm. That might just be enough to start.
It's definitely setting your tone. Like, it's definitely setting the tone of the day.
But it shows you that you value yourself and that you're not just letting this life just kind of slip by around you. And it will carry on. You'll do one thing and then it's just like going to the gym, like working a muscle. I could never used to run 5 kilometers. Now I can run 5 kilometers. It's just not.
Even with the meditation, Jess, because I used to struggle with it too. I love it now, but I do have short ones. I find long ones hard unless I'm part of some course, because we all have a million things to get done, right? You actually don't need the time. It's the quality is much more important than the length of time. So even just choosing one song that you really love, this might be something you start with tomorrow, and just breathe and be present and clear your mind for one song. Starting your day like that is going to set the energy of the day.
Yeah, just honoring.
Grateful for.
Yeah, no, and I think a lot of people hear the word meditation and they kind of freak out. But I don't see I know there's deep levels of meditation, but from a really novice perspective, I don't see it as anything advanced. I see it as just sitting peacefully with your own thoughts and just really just clearing your mind and being with yourself. And that's something a lot of us just don't do very well. Mm-hmm. So my tips, I suppose, is if you're moving forward and you're like, I loved what they had to say, but I just feel a little bit overwhelmed now, is ask yourself where you feel you find your biggest frustrations. Are you annoyed because you always look frazzled and you feel frazzled? Or are you really annoyed because you always skip breakfast and you know that's important? Or is peace and quiet something you value, so it's just the 15 minutes earlier for your cup of tea? Or are you somebody who finds that they're very negative? I know that a lot of people struggle with where their thoughts go, and they find that their way of thinking is just so conditioned to this, I don't have, I can't have, I never will, this person's annoying me, that person, the husband, the kids, and it's a natural thing. We practice being negative a lot. So if you can figure out where you feel like the biggest bugbear point is at the moment, then just pick one and just work on that for a month. If it's the thoughts, then you want to start empowering yourself. You want to read what Kira read out before. It's so beautiful and it's so universal. You can tweak that. And I trust me when I tell you, if you just do that one thing a day, you will feel a profound shift. And I know that because sometimes I think about who I used to be and who I am now, and I literally feel tears of gratitude because I just think, wow, it's all those little things over time that have been able to transform me into who I am today. And so rather than overwhelming yourself, just really assess, where am I at and what's going to give me the most benefit, and just go forward in that way.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. And so I want to give you a chance to talk about, maybe you've got some recommended resources or favorite podcasts, because we always get asked what books, what this, what that. But before you do that, because someone did say in the comments as well, Jess and I are both very passionate and have for many years brought the consciousness that we're bringing to our own life. We really try and bring that to our children as well, and to really cultivate children who or help them cultivate a mindset of kindness and happiness and joy and, positive thinking and believing in themselves and all of the things that we're working on for ourselves. It's such a gift if we can give that to our children at the same time. Someone had asked about the I am statement cards, but I know that when it comes to some of these very simple things that we've spoken about, you've actually created something where parents can help their children with this mindfulness as well. Do you want to share a little bit about that?
Oh, thank you. Yeah. So I recently created a card deck. Should have them next to me, but I don't. But they're called Create Connection.
I'll get mine while you're chatting.
Thanks, Kira. They're called Create Connection Every Day. I co-created them with one of my friends who is a beautiful children's yoga teacher, and basically the idea is to teach your children to help you and your child connect, but inadvertently you're going to be giving yourself time, and that's what we've been talking about. I suppose the whole time on this call is just valuing yourself enough to have time, and same goes with the time with your kids. We can often feel so stressed to just get them into bed. And so by giving yourself 5 to 15 minutes a day, you just basically pull out a card, you use the idea. Most of them are just done without any tools. It's just basically following the prompts. But what they teach is a range of things between communication, gratitude practices, how to be like little spiritual beings in really simple, easy ways for children to digest, how to be more loving, how to be more gracious, and all those little things that some of us just aren't even able to do for ourselves. So it's very hard to then teach our children. And so
really that's a part of our evening ritual, right? So life's about rituals, right? But the way I look at it, and, I especially when I started running my business, I went from being a mum who just needed to be present as a mum every day and, obviously juggling a million things like mums do, cooking and all of that. But I did have a lot of quality time with my kids. And what I found that when I started working in my business, my presence was continually distracted by, my headspace wasn't just in parenting anymore. And the way that I was able to feel good about that was creating a space every single day where they got my 100% presence and, we could really connect on a deeper level. And I really use this time, and I know Jess does as well, to not only teach them things, but to listen to them and make them feel heard, and to start creating a habit of communication, as Jess said, where I know that if any challenges arise in the future, especially going into high school, that we already have a habit of communication where they're telling me the challenges of their day, the failures, the wins, the successes. We're really talking about a broad range of things. It's also a time that I get to be honest and vulnerable with them. I don't believe in parenting from an authoritative way. Obviously, I have boundaries and they have to, and, I guess in some ways you'd say I'm a very strict mum in terms of how respectful and well-behaved my kids are, but I also give them a lot of freedom and flexibility to be them. And I'm also very big on being able to apologize or communicate with them if I haven't done my best that day, or if perhaps I showed up in a way as a parent that I'm actually regretting now, or, maybe I was triggered by one of their behaviors or whatever that might be. This is a beautiful time to really just bridge that connection back with them. And I think when we can be real and vulnerable with our kids in that way, we are human to them. And then, I think they'll have a lot more grace for us when they're older and they work out all the ways that we mess them up.
and kids do come to rely on that that routine. They have safety in knowing that at the end of every day, mummy and daddy are going to have time for them. There's going to be
not quantity, it's the quality that they're going to remember.
And that's right. And I said to someone the other day, it's kind of like helping you eliminate mum guilt by just having that 5 to 10 minutes. I made up for it. I may have been a bit crazy this morning, but now I'm here for you. I'm just going to look you in the eye and give you cuddles and
But
sometimes
it
that,
works both ways, because I know Scarlett does this stuff for you, but you know, Maddie in particular, well, they both did last night. Geordie did a beautiful meditation over us. They're like totally going to be little yoga teachers. I can already see it. But you know, Maddie, I had a really stressful day a week or two ago, and Maddie made me lie down. You know, she like ticked me off her class list. She made me lie down. She got her bowl of crystals out and she laid them all over my body. She instructed me to breathe. And then she sat down with this book that I think I got for Mother's Day, you know, years ago, and it's Why I Love My Mummy. And she's like, close your eyes, Mummy, breathe. And she sat there and read the Why I Love My Mummy book. And it's just like, oh, like I'm going to remember those moments. And it's just creating kind and conscious kids on the other side, because we're modeling that behavior to them.
Yeah, 100%. It's so important. And it all comes back to starting with yourself, because once you do it for yourself, it's just so much easier to do it for other people.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. So what other resources do you love or particularly have found yourself, or maybe there's, you know, one or two that really made the biggest impact, whatever you feel like sharing?
Yeah. Look, as I mentioned before, I've not found reading one of my biggest strengths. So I when I do get onto a good book, sometimes I just stick to it. But one book that I really, really love, it's called Light is the New Black, and it's a really light and refreshing read, but it has some really good philosophies within that book that I find, no matter at what level of your own kind of development you're at, you can kind of just pick it up and put it down, but it has this beautiful warmth, and it just can reinforce that you're worthy and that you're here for more, and more can be just being a really conscious human being and a really present person. That can be your greatest achievement in life. It doesn't need to be all these other things.
Mm-hmm.
So I love that book. I definitely, and Kira actually recommended this one to me for parenting, which is Conscious Parenting, which is an amazing, amazing book. I've got that next to me actually most of the time. There's this one here, and it's absolutely gorgeous. I think sometimes people can definitely get a little bit overwhelmed when they're on a journey. So I can see Kira's all books I have next to my bed.
I'm pulling out like the real basic ones, yeah, because I don't want to overwhelm you guys. But most of the good ones are next to my bed. But I just the Magic, which is a gratitude practice, was probably the first book that really truly impacted my life and changed it for the better. And it's a really simple. Even that, if you want a guide for 30 days to get into a habit, then the Magic, it's about $10 online. I think it's incredible. I think you can even get an app now, so you could just put the app on your phone. It will make an impact if you start your day with that. It would take you 5 minutes a day. But I just remembered this other little book which I really loved, and it's called What I Know for Sure by Oprah Winfrey. And if you're someone who doesn't love to read or you know, you don't have much time to read, it's literally like 4-page chapters. And the lessons are so beautiful in this. And once again, just a great way to set the tone of your evening or your morning. It's a really, really beautiful book.
Yeah. And I think I was just going to say, I have listened to so many podcasts that have really had impact on me. And most of the time, what I really believe is that the reason they have impact is because they've come at the time you needed it. So sometimes you can listen to something and just be like, I just couldn't even concentrate. And other times, like, I'm walking down the beach like crying because I'm like, oh, this was so impactful. Oprah Soul Sessions is a beautiful place to start.
Yeah, that's my fave.
Variety on the podcast.
I just let it roll in my car, like just on to the next. And often it's not one that I would have chosen from the title, and I'll just be like, oh my gosh, that's gold. And then by default, the kids are hearing it often if they're in the car as well.
Yeah, and I was going to say it's a great one because most of it's really safe subject matter, whereas, you know, sometimes you can't listen to stuff with the kids in the car. But I think the best advice in terms of resources is really just don't overwhelm yourself. Don't feel, and I've seen this happen so much where you really want to better yourself, and then you just get into like, I'm just reading all this and I'm watching all these people and I just can't focus. So really going within and asking yourself the quality questions of where do I want to improve the most. And some days I need to go and read something on relationships, or I need to go and tune in on my parenting. And other days I really need to tune in on health. So I'm like, I'm going to go find something that's a new idea that I can listen to on that. But yeah, I think the ones that I mentioned, and what Kira mentioned as well are just really good all-rounders. And those books you have for years and years, and that's
I keep coming back to them if I'm in a really crappy space, right? Because you and I, we chat all the time. Sometimes I'm coaching you, usually you're coaching me at the moment, but like it's like, you know, we all have those moments where for a week we'll be off track with our energy, but the great thing is we know that we get sick of ourselves really quickly, right? Whereas I went for years being negative and annoyed, whereas now I'll go for a week and I'll be like, right, that's just enough of that. I can't handle myself. And we know the tools to pull ourselves back on track. I forget where I was leading with that,
just
but
back to those books, like at those
I
times.
keep coming back to them. Yeah, like the magic. You know, I've done that so many times. Like if I'm just really stuck in a challenging space in my life, it really helps to pull me out of it. Just getting back into that habit and making me think of different areas. You know, the what I know for sure, like just pulling that out and reading a chapter. One of the ones that I love to have in my handbag that was probably actually before, no, it was after the magic, but probably the next really impactful book was the 7 Spiritual Laws of Success. It's a really tiny, there we go, yeah. It's a perfect handbag book just to keep going over those beautiful 7 laws, and it really helped. It actually was the book that I had on repeat when I was in MasterChef, which was the most pressure I've ever been under because I didn't believe in myself at the time. I was, you know, outside my comfort zone for sure. And that book really pulled me through that experience, just focusing on those 7 things. But yeah, the other thing I wanted to share with tips for setting yourself up for success is that, you know, you want to multitask your time, and women are so good at that. Listen to the podcasts in the car. I do podcasts more than I read because I can multitask. You know, when I'm exercising, I'm listening to the podcast. And you know, sometimes I get in the habit of listening to music instead. And then when I just think, you know what, I'm not feeling great today, I've got to listen to a podcast or get one of I have Audible, which is an app with most of my favorite books. Like this book I've got on Audible and I listen to it all the time. But when I go back to that, I feel so much better for it. I'm reminded of how much it makes more of an impact to do that. And you know, I even have a little speaker in my shower. You can get them really cheap, waterproof speakers. So when I'm getting ready in the morning, you know, which I'll be in my room for sometimes, well, it depends on if I'm going somewhere nice or not, whether it's 15 minutes or half an hour, you know, that's time that you can be listening to something, even if that was the thing that you implemented in your morning and your multitasking. So is there anything that you wanted to share to finish up?
No, I think I've kind of covered it. I think the biggest message is just really knowing that you are worth the change, and change is possible no matter where you think you're at and what you've gone through. Is that it's just these little things will just add up over time. So have faith in that process. Be able to breathe around where you're going and just be like, I can take little bits of charge. Take charge in little pieces, and you will see a long-term profound change in your life. Yeah, I think that's my biggest message, because I know that when I started, I was always like, oh, these people are just so far ahead of me, and I just felt really unworthy, and I just felt a little bit lost. And I always try to remember how I used to feel, because I know that people watching potentially might feel that way, and it's just a slow process, but it's so worthwhile giving the routine a really, really solid go. And if you're doing stuff, like, share it, because inspiring others, I know that when people see me posting like I've been to the beach, it's like social proof in a way, but share it, because you can inspire other people around what you do as well. And when Kira talked at the beginning about being the sum of the 5 people you spend the most time with, you know, your energy really can attract better, more quality people in your life, or inspire.
If you've got a low vibration, high vibration people are not hanging around you for too long.
Yeah, or what it can do is it can really inspire other people around you to go, you know what, I know she wasn't in a great spot, but look where she's come to. Yeah. And it helps lift your community. It helps lift the people around you. So yeah, I think that's all. I hope that has been so beneficial for everybody.
Absolutely. So, you know, when it comes to determining your worth, you set that worth. You know, the world is not going to raise the price that you put on yourself. And, you know, you came into this world, when you think of all your beautiful babies, or, you know someone with a baby, you know, think of yourself as that baby coming into this world. You deserve all of the love. You deserve all of the incredible experiences that life has to offer, just like anybody else coming into this world. You're not that special that you're the only person on the planet that isn't worthy or capable of greatness. And so really what this is about, the rituals of your day, it's about asking yourself every single new day is, what is your possibility today? And this was a very powerful question that one of my coaches would ask of me every day when I was going through a very challenging time. He would just gently remind me that every day is a new possibility for me to show up how I choose to. What do I want my life to look like? Who do I want to be? We all have all of the qualities within us, the dark and the light. Which ones do we want to embrace every day and be more of? You know, for me, those are qualities like being flexible and fun and free and in flow and feminine and, you know, strong but graceful. You know, not this aggressive, strong woman who's been hardened by her experiences. I want to have the strength from the experiences that I've been through, but I want to have grace in my future because of that. So that's what these rituals are about, is resetting yourself every single day and resetting the possibility of your day. So hopefully this has, you know, really helped give you some ideas on how you can start with that. I really encourage you to choose just one thing for the next 7 days to feel like you're winning. If you're an overachiever and you want to go for 5, just remember, if you hit 3 of them every day, you've still won. You've still won the morning, which means that you're going to win the day. So please go over and join the Empowered Women's Group and share with us your experience of if you implement something that resonates with you, even if it feels uncomfortable. We challenge you to keep that up, and please share with us. I know Jess is in the group and she would love to see how this really helps to impact your life as well. So
yeah, I'd love to see some pictures of some new rituals. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, and just remember, your challenges and your successes are relatable to everyone. You know, we all are in the same boat. So it really lifts the whole group when you're willing to be vulnerable and share your experiences, your wins, your failures. And, you know, we all get to learn and celebrate. Even in the failures, there's always, that's where the real gifts are, is actually in the failures, not in the successes. So, you know, that's where our life really transforms. So please share. We would really, really love that. And yeah, both of us, we wish you to have, you know, the most incredible day today. And I'll hopefully, if you guys would like, which I'm sure you would, we'll have Jess on again for some future episodes. Thank you for your time.
Thanks for having me, guys. Thanks, Kira.
We'll see you next week. Thank you, everyone.